Alright everyone, we start off today talking about Putin's reverse psychology. The Russian state banning a laundry list of people from entering their country, and basically it's like, Obama and a bunch of his staff, a bunch of liberals basically, the unipartyists, the deep staters that, want war and corporate handouts, and they want you and I to suffer and want to slowly piss away what was once a great United States, take a solemn bow, realize we had a good run, and then step back on the stage and be less than we are today, which suits Putin down to the ground. Of course, Putin doesn't want strong U.S. leadership. It would be counterproductive in every way. Here's why I'm convinced. This is just the latest reason to believe this, that Putin desperately wants Biden reelected. Number one is common sense. Joe Biden has effectively crippled the U.S. energy industry in part, although now because his poll numbers slumped, he slightly reversed course, and people huzzah him as being a great reformer. The Willow Project and shit like that really makes up for Keystone being axed. Yeah, okay, let's give him kudos for that. He has crippled the U.S. economy. He's alienated multiple Western nations, and not like mean tweet style, like rankling them diplomatically, but as in by shrinking the U.S. involvement, forcing the Europeans to build their own sphere, which means that you've got tension within the EU now that you didn't have before. An attempted resurgent Britain. You're going to end up with a six-power world or something like that, because NATO has begun to fracture. Some of the countries are pulling weight, like Poland or Hungary, and others are not. I would note that Biden routinely chastises the countries that are actually doing their job, and in many cases were doing their job for a number of years anyway. The Polish and Hungarians are definitely high on that list. Attempted diplomacy. Arming in case the diplomacy fails, etc., etc. Something that's not being done by a number of other nations within the European sphere. That was just one of them, though, one of the reasons. Putin realizes that Biden is diplomatically weak. He has also weakened the United States military. He has an incoherent foreign policy. And also, China has dirt on the Biden family. We know this. It's plain as day. What better person to lead the United States and keep them off your back than the dude who doesn't know what he's doing anyway because he's literally demented? This is just the latest reason to believe that Vladimir Putin is attempting to get Biden reelected. And that's through reverse psychology. Now, the man was in the KGB. Reverse psychology is pretty easily understood even by little kids, so assuming that the former senior spy for the KGB wouldn't understand the basic premise, that would be beyond the pale. When Putin did this, he did it in a calculated manner, and very visibly too, put out through RT and all of these other groups for a reason. It wasn't like, some state issuance and it just gets filed and then you don't talk about it. It was widely reported. What happens? Rick and Crooklyn Dad and all of these others immediately take it up as a propaganda line saying, look, it's true, Donald Trump is controlled by the Russians. Vladimir Putin hates the Biden admin. He wants them gone. That doesn't make sense, though. Nobody is going to oppose the Biden regime based on the fact that Obama was banned from traveling to Russia. That wouldn't make any sense. Actually, if Putin were trying to prop up Trump, he would issue negative statements about him at this point. We also know that Russiagate was bullshit. Now, we know that the entire Russian collusion thing was a hoax. We've got Durham, by the way, in a few days scheduled to give testimony before a House Judiciary on this particular subject. Since we know that there was no underlying basis for the claim that Trump was controlled by Russia, and since he was capable of conducting strong-arm diplomacy with the Eastern Sphere, and since he empowered the military, and since the economy was generally going well, and since Trump was capable of at least negotiating with Putin, and since there was no invasion of Ukraine for that period that Trump was president, although there was an invasion of Crimea in the previous administration, an invasion of Ukraine at large in the stewardship that comes after Trump, all signs point to Vladimir Putin having a field day with the current U.S. administration being so weak and incoherent. Again, just the Chinese dirt alone that they have on Joe Biden partially muzzles him because he can't step out of line too much without them potentially springing their trap and saying, oh, look, hey, American media, look, it's actually true. We found some business records here. And then the Chinese government would love this. They could implode the Biden administration if they wanted to. They're reluctant to do that because they're more valuable in office than out of office or in a jail cell. They've got the paperwork. The way that China works under its effectively mixed model economy is that those corporations have retained the paperwork. The government has the paperwork. As long as everyone doesn't rock the boat and does what they're told, generally speaking, don't worry about it. It's the same way that they operate with their corporations there. What the Chinese would do if they wanted to take out Biden, they would stage a corruption raid of whatever companies were pertinent and had the paperwork, and then they would discover that paperwork that they already know exists, and then they would release it. Oh yeah, Biden had 3-4 dirty business deals over here. He told the American people he didn't make this money, but here's the paperwork to show that he made the money. I have no doubt, by the way, that the legacy media would attempt to cover up the story, even though it would be an atom bomb going off within the election, and make excuses like, well, it's Chinese propaganda, they're doing this for Putin or something like that. They would still go orange man bad, even if you had the signed, sealed, delivered, and cross-notarized fucking paperwork showing Biden's corruption. An attempt would be made to shield him. That's because the Uniparty doesn't want a world in which the United States has disproportionate military, diplomatic, and economic power. They want a multipolar world because it makes it easier for unipartyists that don't have national loyalty to make money. They can operate anywhere that they want. They have investments all over the place. In some countries, if you make a big enough investment, you gain automatic residency. You can do this in Thailand, for example. And so they don't care. If the U.S. economy flatlines, as long as there's somewhere they can shield their assets from the fallout, it's all good. They don't have any loyalty to any specific country. They're people of the world. They're the kind of dystopian freaks that John Lennon originally liked, but then later seems to have been warning about. Anyway, there's the reason that he died. Wasn't due to a delusional dude. I think there was something deeper going on there. Just saying. One conspiracy theory I happen to agree with. I'm convinced that Putin wants Biden reelected. And I'm convinced that this latest round of banning liberal individuals from Russia, it doesn't have to do with Ukraine. That's bullshit. It doesn't have to do with them. Obama's going to show up at the Kremlin uninvited. That makes a whole lot of sense. It's effectively reverse psychology to get the entire leftoid sphere, and Putin knew this would happen, to do the Orange Man bad thing, even though the underlying premise of Orange Man is a Russian asset has been completely debunked. Even though Durham has completely destroyed the entire narrative, they would still go with it. And there are still plenty of people receptive to that narrative because they haven't done any fact-checking. They assume that anyone that countermands it, even if they have all the proof in the world, and there was no proof for the premise from the get-go, which there wasn't effectively, even then the cognitive dissonance kicks in. They don't want to admit that they were wrong for so many years. A lot of people psychologically, they shield themselves from the truth because the truth indicates that they were fucking stupid. Putin's making fools of them again. I am convinced that Vladimir Putin will also do more to try to get Biden reelected. At this point, yes, Biden is actually the Eastern Sphere puppet on the hand. That's about all. Peace out.